Hi, this is Jennifer Adkins on Tort Law, EDL 850. A tort law is a civil wrong where one person can cause damage, either physical or mental, to another person. The two types of torts are an intentional or negligence. An intentional is where the person committing the offense intends to do the harm. They can do the harm through either battery, where they're, again, intending to physically harm someone, or assault. And an assault can be an attempt to physically harm or use mental cruelty on somebody. The assault is an attempt. They don't actually have to physically hurt them. The negligence, this is the failure to exercise a standard of care to an individual. There's 4 elements to it. Did the teacher owe a duty to the student? Did the teacher break that duty? Is the teacher in breach of duty and was the person injured? The first case study that I have is Munn versus Hotchkiss School. And this is where 15-year-old Kara Munn was bitten by a tick while she was on a school-sponsored summer field trip in the mountains in China. Kara contracted encephalitis from the tick, which caused neurological damage that left Kara unable to speak. The outcome was that the courts awarded the Munns $10 million in economic and $31 million in non-economic damages, citing that the school should have been more proactive and protective and with protective measures and having the students apply the bug spray. While I can see how the school can argue that they could not have foreseen this outcome, I feel like reasonable care would have been that since the students were going outside, precautionary measures such as bug spray, sunscreen, letting parents know. I mean, anytime you're going to the mountains, anytime you're going outside, schools should be forward thinking and think these things could be helpful. The next case is Mitchell versus Cedar Rapids Community School District. This is where a 14-year-old special education student and her friend left school early, and the 14-year-old ended up being sexually assaulted by another student. The outcome on this one was that parents sued the school district for failing to provide adequate supervision of a special education student, failing to monitor her absence, and notifying parents of absence. The courts ruled in favor of the parents for this case. My reaction to this was, while I do not believe that the school could have prevented the attack, and I do not think that they're responsible for the attack, but as a special education teacher, I do feel that monitoring where your caseload is within reasonable care. I personally, if I have a student that I know is at school and they do not show up to a class, I do call just to check in. Now, I can't do this for every student. It just happens to be that I do this for the students that I know that are supposed to be in my class at that time. It is within, and not every single teacher within my school does do this. And they don't necessarily even have time. We record our attendance online. We do have an attendance person that is solely responsible for checking up on these things. But just me personally, I know that I feel that it's in my reasonable care to check up on something like this. The next case is Barrett versus USD 259. And this is where Robert Barrett collapsed on the football field during first practice of the season, and Robert later died at the hospital. The parents sued the school district, citing negligence and gross negligence and duty to care. The courts ruled in favor of the school district. Again, this is a court case where I believe that the coach or the school district I don't believe that they were the cause, and I don't necessarily believe that they were responsible for it. I do believe that school districts could and should take in the temperatures and the heat advisories and be proactive and precautionary with their practice times. If they know it's going to be super hot, they should either move the practice to the morning or they should shorten it. I know that my school district does do that. They pay very close attention to the heat advisories, and practices are shortened. Like I know we have cross country going on currently, and if there's a heat advisory out, cross country will move inside and they do activities inside. And it could be because of cases like this that these decisions have been put in place. The next one is Barnett versus Caldwell. And this is where Antoine Williams was injured and later died from injuries that he sustained from a horseplay incident that happened when his teacher left the room to go to the bathroom. The parents sued the school district, claiming the teacher was negligent in supervising his classroom. The courts ruled in favor of the district, citing official immunity because her acts were the product of discretionary decisions concerning the supervision of students. So the teacher, when she left the room, she did ask another teacher to keep an ear out because that teacher couldn't necessarily see that classroom. Again, I feel like the teacher made an attempt for coverage for her classroom. I think that she should have, the teacher that was covering maybe should have at least gone in and at least looked at the classroom once, getting up and walking over and looking at, just to make sure everybody was okay. I think this case is a question of what is best practice, and is there a better way to ensure that your students have proper supervision? It is, at the middle school level and a high school level, it's not unreasonable for a teacher to be able to step out and make the assumption that these students are, teenagers and they are close to being adults and they should be able to handle themselves reasonably. By law, they can stay at home by themselves. They should be able to stay in a classroom by themselves. But that issue of supervision and just making sure that somebody is there to, it's like pop in and keep an eye on them. That is a big issue, and that is something that as a school there should be a kind of a plan in place. So whether it's the teacher across the hall is keeping an eye on, walking back and forth between the two, or you have a para or a secretary come cover you. The last case I have is Frame versus Como. In this one, Frame was an 8th grade student in a Catholic school, and he became disrupted during a spelling test. Como, who was filling in for the science teacher, had asked Frame to leave the classroom. Frame was non-compliant and he was slow to move. Como grabbed Frame by the arm to assist him out of the classroom, which led Frame to stumble backwards, hitting the podium and falling onto the blackboard. Frame sued Como for assault and battery, and the courts ruled in favor of Como, citing that he was justified in his actions. My reaction to this case is, while I understand that the court feels like he was justified in his actions, I'm not quite sure that I believe he was justified in his actions. Before he should have even walked over and engaged with the student one-on-one, where he put his hands on him, I feel like an administrator should have been called to escort him out. Me as a teacher, I would never escort a student out. I would always leave that to administration. If a student is going to be non-compliant, they are engaging in a struggle with you, and it's a struggle that I'm not willing to engage in, so I just always call administration. I feel like in this case, administration should have been called too. If administration had been called, I don't feel like that Como would have ever put his hands on that student. Lastly, the whole professional ethics. Just to sum this kind of all up, well, teachers given a small amount of immunity under tort law, there's a question that needs to be answered: is what constitutes is reasonable care? I think that there's a lot of gray area in this question, and it could be answered several different ways depending upon who you ask. Me, I think kind of from a role of a parent, and I try to be prepared and think of every possible thing that might be needed if I'm going on a field trip, or if we're doing an activity for the day, or especially since I am in special ed, thinking, okay, well, we have something special going on. I have this student that has these particular needs, and I have to make sure that I'm one step ahead of those needs. And I also think that I would want somebody to be doing for my kid if they were in that classroom, because I want his teachers to be prepared as well. But can you be prepared for every situation? No, you can't. Just like the teacher who had to go to the bathroom. You have those needs. It's not unreasonable for a teacher to go to the bathroom. Honestly, these days, I would be afraid to break up a fight for fear of being sued. When you're acting in a student's best interest and for their safety, and you pull a kid off another kid, it is very possible that you could get sued because you did touch another student. In fact, I know an administrator within my district that lost their job for the very same thing, just for breaking up a fight. It's very unnerving, and it does make me fearful. Professionally, it's your responsibility to make sure that you are acting in the very best interest of your students at all times, and trying to be proactive as best as you can. Thank you.